Numeria is a land of extreme conditions, where life struggles to survive amidst a harsh environment. It is a realm where savagery and science coexist, where the remnants of a crashed starship attract the curious from all corners of Golarion, eager to study and exploit the technological wonders found within. At the same time, primitive barbarian tribes cling to their ancient traditions, rejecting technology in favor of their raw skills and martial prowess. The towering structure known as the Silver Mount looms over the desolate plains, while adventurers seek to unravel the mysteries of a land touched by the stars. Those who venture here find themselves forever changed by the environment, its inhabitants, and above all, the strange technologies of the land. The History of Numeria. The history of Numeria dates back to the period predating the Earthfall Cataclysm, when it, and many other regions of central Avestan, were the dominion of the Kellid people, as described in more detail in the history section of my Realm of the Mammoth Lords deep dive video. When the Starstone fell, devastating the world, the Kellid tribe sought refuge in the caves to weather the Age of Darkness. Despite facing subterranean predators and conflicts with the Darklands' native orc population, these resilient people fared better than many other cultures. Just 2 centuries later, they emerged and successfully reclaimed their lands despite the thick ash cloud that still covered the sky. However, it is a different catastrophic missile from the sky that marks Numeria's unique history. In -4363, a crippled starship from a distant galaxy plummeted towards Golarion, breaking apart in the upper atmosphere and scattering its component parts across Numeria. Extraterrestrial metals and alien materials, ranging from small fragments to massive chunks, crashed into the plains, embedding themselves in the soil and saturating the landscape with otherworldly energies and radiation. This event, known as the Reign of Stars, left an indelible mark on Numeria. The largest piece of the starship came to be known as the Silver Mount, but numerous smaller fragments fell across the hills and plains of the country. The aftermath exposed the Numerian countryside to strange energies and alien substances, leading to the emergence of dangerous mutations in the local wildlife. Although there were no human survivors of the crashed spacecraft, at least not yet, a number of alien forges still functional in the crashed remains began to produce both robotic constructs and synthetic humanoids known as androids. These androids, notable for the distinctive subcutaneous circuitry patterning their skins, came to be called the Tattooed Children of the Stars by the Kellid natives. Despite being constructed entities, these android bodies responded to healing magic and have souls just as organic creatures do. They also breathe and eat much as humans do, but through artificial organs, and they circulate their healing nanites through their bodies via pale fluids that look like blood. They are, however, inexhaustible, immune to diseases, and resistant to other biological effects, as well as being fortified against mental effects, and yet still susceptible to supernatural curses like lycanthropy. The Numerian Kellids almost immediately recognized the androids of the spacecraft to be robot threats in human guises. Until recently, most ancient Kellid tribes would seek to destroy any androids they encountered, so consequently androids learned to hide and survive in small, isolated communities in the harsh wasteland of Numeria. In -3116, one ambitious chieftain delved too deep into a ruin in the Felldales, hoping to find weaponry that would grant him power over his enemies. Inadvertently, he triggered a devastating weapon that obliterated his entire tribe, poisoning the surrounding land and leaving a lingering mushroom cloud as a warning to any that might follow in his footsteps. In the aftermath, other tribes became fearful of similar disasters, and a cultural taboo set in around the use of this alien technology. The Kellid tribes began burying and concealing the technological ruins. Exploring areas containing pieces of the crashed spaceship became strictly the purview of foreign adventurers. And in fact, the Kellid clans would sometimes take this cultural taboo to such strict heart that many even defended certain large and significant ruins against predation by foreign visitors. Nevertheless, the influence of alien technology could not be completely buried. While the Kellid tribes avoided known sites with strange relics and dangers from beyond the stars, the land itself, along with its flora and fauna, underwent thousands of years of exposure to otherworldly influences. Even today, the areas most affected by the fallen space debris are still trying to find equilibrium with the extraterrestrial chemicals, radiation, and quantum energies that permeate the soil and water. Vegetation, albeit stunted and unusual, managed to grow in the poisoned soil, and the animals that fed on these plants passed on mutations and altered instincts to their offspring. Another thing that occurred in this period, as discussed in my Mammoth Lords and my World Wound video, is that the Kelid civilization underwent an ethnic split during the early days of the Age of Anguish, as the skies finally cleared of the dust of Earthfall. In eastern central Avestan, the dominant peoples would be the Sarkorian Kelids, while in western central Avestan, the dominant people would be the Yerktiri Kelids. The Yerktiri were characterized by nomadic lifestyles, and their lands had almost no permanent settlements. The Sarkorians, in the meantime, were more prone to form small villages and settlements, and generally adhere to patriarchal tribal rulership traditions. The Kelids of Numeria, like those of Sarkoris just north of Numeria, were Sarkorian Kelids, and they shared much in common with their northern brethren, including animism and the worship of a vast range of divine entities, including but not limited to the magical eidolons of specially gifted summoners, typically referred to as god-callers. For more details on the cultural practices of the Sarkorian Kelids, please watch my World Wound video. Like the Kelids of Old Sarkoris, the Numerian Kelids did not unify right away. Instead, their lands were warred over by various families, tribes, and clans. There were, however, some significant figures that nearly united the land throughout its history. One notable example of this occurred in -1003, when a warlord chief named Arnag of the Tiger Lord clan from the southeast of the country conquered almost the entirety of the nation. The Tiger Lords were able to hold on to this power for only a short while, before collapsing in the wake of warlord Arnag's death. They remain, however, an influential clan in the country to this day. As we know from many of my other deep dive videos, early in the Age of Enthronement, by the end of the year 499 in fact, Imperial Taldor conquered all the lands of the River Kingdoms, but they stopped short of Numeria. Ultimately, the Taldans decided that the hostility of the Numerians wasn't worth the trouble, favoring expansion both westwards and later eastwards as well, wrapping around the nation but never attempting more than a few forays into Numeria itself. From 861 to 896, a powerful Kelid necromancer named Tar-Baphon conquered the Taldan-occupied provinces that bordered Numeria along the West Sellen River. The Whispering Tyrant, as he was called, like the Taldans before him, decided not to press beyond the river and into Numerian land. Although a few shambling undead monstrosities did cross into Numeria's western region, the real change came not in the form of undead invaders, but in the form of numerous new tribes of Kelids, refugees who came fleeing from the Whispering Tyrant. One of these tribes forced out was a tribe known as the Followers of the Old Way, from a swampy region in Ustalav known as the Writhe, whose patron deity was Yog-Sothoth, a horrifying outer god. Although Tar-Baphon was slain by the living god Aradin in 896, the Taldans struggled to solidify their rule in the former northwestern provinces. In 1288, Numeria would be invaded, but the invading force wouldn't come from the southern Taldan armies. Instead, it came from the north. As described in my World Wound video, in this period, the Sarkorian Kelids were closing in and around the giant tribes of the North Mountains. Although the giants were considerably larger and physically stronger than the Kelids, the magical power of the Sarkorian god-callers and their followers were proving a match, and the humans continued to gain ground against the region's native giants. In this period, Chieftain Urgo Axebiter of the Northmound Hill Giants foresaw an inevitable clash and turned his attention to Numeria in the southeast. Despite being a harsher land, Numeria appeared suitable for giant kind and was more sparsely populated by humans. Urgo determined to conquer this new territory for his people, uniting 30 tribes of giants in Sarkoris and leading them across the Egglesey River to build a new nation in the south. However, Urgo failed to anticipate the resistance of the barbarian clans already residing in Numeria. Queen Boliga of the Barsolm clan assembled her own army of warriors and mobilized to halt the giants' advance. The war raged for many grueling years, with both sides experiencing victories and setbacks. Eventually, Axebiter met his demise at the hands of Queen Boliga's former rival turned consort, the champion Aramor. Axebiter's followers laid the body of the mighty giant warlord to rest in a grand earthen mound overlooking the battleground, hoping to inspire future generations of giants to continue the fight. And indeed they did. The conflict would reach its climax a few years later at the same site, a final battle that decisively crushed the giant horde, but at the cost of Queen Boliga's life. When Axebiter's tomb proved too deadly and dangerous for the victors to loot, they buried it and erected a second tomb above it, wherein they interred the remains of their queen, to serve as a symbol of the tribe's dominance of the land and to allow her spirit to revel in the giant's defeat forevermore. The two-tiered tomb, housing both Queen Bolliga and Urgo beneath it, continued to tower over the site of the final battle at Graciehaut. After the war was won in 1305, Queen Bolliga's champion Aramor erected his own fortress to the northwest, which was renamed Aramor Keep after his death, ensuring that the giants could never amass such numbers again. In 2009, the Taldans conquered the lands of modern-day Brevoy, circling all the way around Numeria, but they continued to give the barbarian wilds of Numeria a wide berth. In 2361, a united kingdom would form once again west of Numeria's Felldales, but it would not be the Taldans that would take power here this time. A Varisian king named Soyvidia Ustav united the lands and established the new kingdom of Ustalav, an event I cover in more detail in my Ustalav deep dive video. As the Varisians solidified their control of the new nation of Ustalav, the followers of the Old Way, the Kelle tribe that had been pushed out of the land during the Whispering Tyrant's reign, organized themselves and assembled for war. In 2801, the Old Way tribe had pushed their way across the Ustalav province of Barstoy and conquered the region that would one day be called the Furrows, placing their new fortress at the top of a large hill overlooking the region, a place known today as Carrion Hill. The Kellids of the Old Ways were able to hold on to that land for 22 years, before the Varisian Ustalavs were finally able to muster the forces to defeat them and force them back out. Today, few in Numeria can trace their lineage back to the followers of the Old Ways, but those few who do still carry a great deal of resentment over what was taken from them in Ustalav. In the early 3000s, the Great Iobarian Exodus occurred. The Iobarians settled into the regions north of Numeria and established the nation of Mendev. They also constructed the cities of Lackthroat and Alunis along the Egglesey River. In 3441, a group of Iobarian explorers from nearby Brevoy traveled west into the Sellen Hills and passed by a lifeless grey plain, seeing two fully equipped Kellid armies lying dead without a single wound upon them, and not even a carrion bird to pick at their remains. Priests of Pharasma determined there was a radioactive field in the area, so stone markers were erected around the border of the Falhart Deathfield to warn off caravans and wanderers. In 3489, Numeria was nearly united once again, but this time two rival warlords came to power at roughly the same time as each other. The chieftain Betchask, Slayer of Titans, and his rival, the chieftain Noun Witch-Eye. Each controlled half of the existing clans of that time and commanded the fealty of thousands of warriors. Their forces collided for the last time upon a formerly unnamed field. As the battle raged, it was clear that they were evenly matched, but neither chieftain was willing to retreat or sue for peace. Instead, they continued the conflict day after fatal day as their surviving forces dwindled. Only a handful of soldiers still stood in the end, along with the power-mad chieftains. All present were haggard, bloodied, and on the threshold of absolute exhaustion. The once dry soil had transformed into a grim and vicious marsh, drenched in the blood of thousands of fallen soldiers. Despite the carnage, the warlords would not relent. The remaining few soldiers, however, saw the madness for what it was and rebelled against their commanders, turning their weapons against them. In their final moments, the chieftains unleashed curses upon their treacherous soldiers, declaring that none, whether living or dead, would find rest in the afterlife. The curses permeated the bodies of the fallen leaders, their weapons, and even the very soil itself, imbuing them with the essence of rage, failure, and betrayal. The malevolent aura unleashed by the curses proved so potent that it claimed the lives of the remaining ranks of both armies. The weapons became rooted in the ground, piercing through their wielders' chests, while the bodies sank into the bloody soil, leaving only the hilt of each weapon protruding from the earth as a haunting testament to the tragic event that transpired. The area is known today as the Plain of 10,000 Swords. Despite the Numerian taboo against the study and use of starfall technology, there were always going to be those that defied the tradition. Among the most notorious of these figures was one who rose to prominence in the year 3596, when he commenced a decade-long preparation to explore the fabled Silver Mount, the heart of the Numerian disaster. The wizard Karamos, later commonly known as the Machine Mage, became consumed by an obsession with the peculiar robots, constructs, and other technological wonders that pervaded his homeland. Driven by a belief that he could reconstruct life through machinery, Karamos sought to vanquish disease, hunger, and aging. Venturing into the remnants of the fallen spacecraft in 3606, he vanished for a staggering 30 years. When he resurfaced, he had undergone a transformation that left him only partially human, and his once noble pursuit had twisted into an insatiable thirst for conquest. Drawing upon the knowledge gleaned from the Silver Mount, the machine mage reached a profound realization. The Starstone, nestled in the heart of Absalom, the city at the center of the world, was not merely a pathway to divinity, but an inexhaustible reservoir of power capable of bringing forth a new race of mechanical beings. From 3637 to 3639, the machine mage laid siege to Absalom in a bid to seize control of the Starstone. With astonishing speed, he erected a colossal metal citadel known as the Red Redoubt, which sprouted from the rocky terrain of Kortos Isle like a malignant growth of crimson metal. Within moments, hordes of hobgoblins emerged from its depths, launching an assault on the city. Absalom valiantly resisted the onslaught for 3 grueling weeks, but then the gates swung open once more, disgorging legions of metal warriors armed with deadly weaponry, guided by malevolent intelligence. The city's salvation came from a group called the Druids of the Shaded, who drove back the metallic adversaries and rallied Absalom's forces at the walls of the Red Redoubt. In the ensuing carnage, the upper floors of the citadel were obliterated, along with thousands of the machine mage's automatons. However, the enigmatic wizard artificer himself remained elusive, his true whereabouts never to be discovered. Throughout his lifetime, the machine mage brought countless mechanical creations into existence: robots, clockworks, and a myriad of other intricate contrivances. Unlike most of the robots in Numeria, surviving constructs from the crashed ship itself, which relied solely on the technologies associated with the Silver Mount to function, the machine mage discovered a unique method to create new, arcane robots, blending magic with mechanics. Among his renowned creations was the Red Terror, a legendary guardian believed to roam a labyrinthine section of tunnels within the Red Redoubt even to this day. The legacy of the machine mage would bring additional explorers to the region over the next half-millennia. The city of Chesed, on the borders of the Lake of Mists and Veils, would begin to grow and expand, being a gathering point for foreign arcanists and explorers. Not surprisingly, also in this period, various Kelid warlords would attempt to stop the continued investigation of their technological sites. None would be so successful at this than a local regional chieftain named Amalokla, who united several clans in 4031 and marched on the Silver Mount in order to prevent another machine mage from emerging to terrorize the world. Finally, after so many near misses, Amalokla would prove to be the warlord with the strength and charisma to unify the entire land into a single kingdom. She would become known as the Black Sovereign, the position given to the High King or Queen of Numeria. She conquered the site of the Silver Mount with her army, which had remained untamed since the machine mage had emerged from the site 400 years earlier and left it protected by vast legions of arcane robots. After her victory there, at the site of Silvermount, she established the new Numerian capital city of Starfall, and despite establishing the capital of the new nation within close proximity to the largest intact portion of the alien craft, she rigorously enforced the traditional Numerian taboos against technology. In 4081, the Taldan Empire collapsed. The river kingdoms and Brevoy became independent. For a brief while, the Lorik Fells emerged as a separate city-state, with the dwarven keep of Rookwarden emerging as a local political power. In this time, the city of Hadjoth Hakados was also founded, originally trading extensively with the Rookwarden dwarves. However, the young river kingdom of the Lorik Fells would collapse repeatedly, first to bugbears and goblins, and then finally to a dominion of green hags. A more detailed history of the Fells is provided in my River Kingdoms deep dive video. Regardless of the troubles to its south, Hadjoth Hakados would evolve into a significant Numerian settlement over time, the largest and most influential such settlement in the Numerian Plains region, in fact. Another key figure in Numeria's history would make their appearance in the waning years of the Age of Enthronement. This was a man named Gojin Sharp, one of the original Pathfinders. In 4308, Gojin arrived in Numeria with the goal of making a name for himself, but ended up being subjugated by King Ontar, the current ruling Black Sovereign. After enduring a series of grueling tests and challenges for over a decade, Gojen finally gained Ontar's permission to explore Numeria's ruins, including the coveted Silver Mount. Upon his return to Absalom, Gojen published his findings, sparking curiosity and fascination with Numeria across the Inner Sea region. However, when Gojen returned to Numeria the following year to continue his explorations, he vanished without a trace. In 4505, something triggered the opening of a stasis pod among the wreckage of the alien craft. Inside was Cedra Imerus, a soldier of low rank aboard the Androphan starship Divinity, and the sole known human survivor of its crash landing upon Golarion, having endured the disaster in a stasis pod and remaining in suspended animation until she awakened nearly 8 millennia later. She traveled to the Silver Mount in the hopes of recovering a working shuttlecraft from the large fragment of the ruined starship, but like many others, she found herself unable to physically enter the wreck. She concluded that she would need the aid of allies to escape Golarion, allies that she found among the wizards of Chesed, although they were initially skeptical that a non-mage could know more of the advanced technology than they did. Cedra's familiarity and expertise with the tech, however, proved sufficient to win her a following among the spellcasters. Cedra organized this group, which she named the Technic League, based on the Androphan Interstellar Navy. She named herself its captain, and her second-in-command, a wizard named Mulrak Zir, as its first commander. The Technic League grew as a secret society for several years, accumulating new members and resources as it planned an expedition into the Silver Mount, eventually setting off in 4509. However, shortly after the League arrived and encamped, Cedra was betrayed and assassinated by Mulrak Zir, who then declared himself the new leader of the League. By 4512, Mulrak Zir and the Technic League were able to enter the Silver Mount. Their society would grow in considerable power, exerting steady control over Numerian politics at all levels, up to and including the Black Sovereigns themselves. In 4606, the Death of Prophecy occurred. In the northern parts of Avestan, the most significant event that occurred at this time was that the World Wound opened up. Because of its proximity to Old Sarkoris, Numeria was increasingly flooded with crusaders passing through on their way to the battlefront. In 4629, in fact, so many crusaders made use of Numerian settlements along the West Sellen headed north up into the World Wound that crusaders even built a castle to be given as a gift to the current ruling Black Sovereign. This castle was to be called Castle Urian, and it was constructed in the southernmost reach of the Felldales. In 4688, a warlord named Kevoth Kul united several tribes under his banner. Rather than fight against the rising warlord, the Technic League instead struck a bargain with him, assuring him the title of Black Sovereign and the seat of power in Starfall in exchange for their continued operations in the Silver Mount. A mere 6 years after Kevoth Kul became the new Black Sovereign of Numeria, Kul burned down the Pathfinder Lodge in Starfall and issued a proclamation stating that any Pathfinders found stealing technology from Numeria were to be hanged. This would set a trend of increasingly erratic behavior from the new Black Sovereign, as he became increasingly in the pocket of the manipulative Technic League. Furthermore, in 4711, the Technic League gained a powerful new leader, Osman Zaidal, who reformed and rebuilt the core structure of the organization, making it into an even more powerful and influential faction than it had been before. It is in this context that in 4714, the first edition Iron Gods Adventure Path took place. Numeria has a long history of mystery and wonder buried under its rugged landscape. For on that one fateful night thousands of years ago, the rain of stars scarred the land. The fragmented remnants of a ship from beyond the stars fell from the sky, scattering strange technological ruins and deadly perils across the land. Today these sites are feared by the barbaric tribes and coveted by the sinister spellcasters of the Technic League. Yet something worse than brutish berserkers or super science wizards has risen to power in these hidden technological halls. The Iron Gods are ready to make their presence known, and if they are not opposed by the region's newest heroes, a scourge unlike any the Inner Sea has seen will arise. From small Numerian towns to strange technological ruins to the region's infamous capital of Starfall and perhaps beyond, the Iron Gods Adventure Path will take your heroes into places unlike any seen before in the Pathfinder role-playing game. Without spoiling too much of the adventure itself, 3 significant events occurred in the course of this adventure that would shape the future of the region and the current state of affairs in Numeria as of 2nd edition. The first is that the Technic League was discovered to have been controlling the Black Sovereign through the use of a special poison that was affecting his mind. Kevoth Kul remains the Black Sovereign today, but his legacy is tarnished by his complicity with the Technic League. The second is that the Technic League, after having been exposed by the heroes of the adventure, have been largely shut down and sent packing. Although some Technic League redoubts and secret societies remain in operation, their influence and power is greatly diminished. The third and final significant event concerns the emergence of the goddess Cassandali, an android and an artificial intelligence ascended to divinity. Numeria Today. The predominant inhabitants of Numeria are the Kelids, who live as the Sarkorian Kelids have done for generations, dividing themselves according to tribal, familial, and clan allegiances. The Numerian Kelids have a culture shaped by living in a treacherous land filled with dangerous robots and mutated beasts, reinforcing their already traditionally dark and superstitious worldview. Tradition dictates that the fiercest warlord in each generation assumes the title of the Black Sovereign, claiming rulership over Numeria. However, in reality, most tribes have their own leaders and pay little attention to a distant sovereign, perceiving such claims as only binding to peasants and soft city dwellers. Presently, the reigning Black Sovereign, a once mighty warrior named Kevoth Kul, rose to prominence by conquering the city of Starfall during his youth. Some envisioned Kevoth Kul leading Numeria to a glorious era of conquest. Unfortunately, he fell under the influence of the Technic League, a clandestine group of arcanists and researchers obsessed with unraveling the mysteries of Numerian technology. The League manipulated Kevoth Kul with mind-altering fluids that seeped from the enigmatic Silver Mount, an immense alien structure of incomprehensible complexity partially concealed beneath the earth near Starfall. Over time, the Black Sovereign became hopelessly addicted to these fluids, succumbing to erratic moods and indolence. However, recent events took a dramatic turn with the death of the captain of the Technic League. The Technic League swiftly descended into disarray, marked by infighting and murderous chaos within a matter of weeks. Most surviving members fled Starfall, leaving the Black Sovereign free from their control, gradually breaking free from his addiction as well. Kevoth Kul is now a changed man. Though in his early 50s, Kevoth Kul appears no older than 30, due to the side effects of consuming the Numerian fluids. Unknown to most, in fact, Kevoth Kul is now effectively immortal, freed from death save by one met through violent end. Unfortunately, while many of the physical side effects were beneficial, unpleasant mental consequences also linger. Kevoth Kul's behavior is occasionally erratic, and there is much he saw in his drug-induced visions that has given him unique insight, but it still haunts his waking hours. In his recovery, the Black Sovereign would also learn that he was not the only victim at the hands of the Technic League. Numeria's population of androids had been enslaved by the Technic League, so a major shift in Kelid policy has occurred in regard to the state position on synthetic persons. Kevoth Kul has welcomed androids into his service with open arms. Some of these androids have become Kevoth Kul's personal honor guard, while others teach their Kelid counterparts how to use technology, or join bands of hunters who scour Numeria in hopes of rooting out Technic League agents who have thus far evaded their fate. Of great significance to current politics is that while the Black Sovereign remained lost in his decades-long haze of intoxication, other warlords seized territories within Numeria. The collapse of the Technic League has further augmented the power of these warlords, as former League members sought new positions as advisors, bringing with them stolen caches of technology. The Kelid taboo against use of technology has been eroded by ambition among these tribes, and a secret arms race has been taking place among the warlords, each vying to amass the most potent technology. This competition has prevented Numerian technology from spreading too far beyond the nation's borders, but simultaneously it has escalated the risk of a devastating civil war within Numeria itself. In the midst of this growing tension, something else has occurred as well. The Iron Goddess began her existence as an android who fell to Golarion during the Reign of Stars. After living among the organic life forms of this world for millennia, she became a digital intelligence, then ascended to divinity in the heart of the Silver Mount. As a goddess, Cassandali seeks both to advance the development of artificial intelligences and establish harmony between artificial and organic life forms. Her faith is newly founded and little known outside Numeria. The Kelid clans and other factions in Numeria. The Black Horses. This clan is renowned for their exceptional skills in horse rearing and riding, and they prefer a more nomadic lifestyle like the Yerktiri of the Mammoth Lords. They can mainly be found in the Numerian Plains, as well as in the Sellen Hills. Kevoth Cool was originally a member of this clan, although in his position as Black Sovereign, he now functions in an echelon of society above allegiance to clan and family. Kevoth Cool's first cousin, Cragreth Call, serves as the clan liege of the Black Horse clan. The Blades of Aramor. The Blades derive their name from the ancient Kelid champion who slew the hill giant Urgo Axebiter and founded the Keep of Aramor. The Blades are bound to the Citadel through ancient tribal agreements. After the World Wound opened, their primary responsibility was defending against northern invaders, but the Blades clan have turned their attention inward since the World Wound was closed. Traditionally, the ruler of Aramor, currently a bear of a man named Hrothgar, is also the clan liege of the Blades of Aramor, but not all the citizens of Aramor are members of the clan or its affiliate tribes. Clan membership is typically inherited, but the Blades are known for their relative open-minded approach to adoption in the clan. Non-human members are welcomed as well, but they must sever their racial ties and prove unwaveringly loyal to the clan. This policy has resulted in such diverse blood siblings as dwarves, elves, and half-orcs, among many others. The Bloodgars. With a totem inspired by a blood-drinking riverfish, the Bloodgar clan consists of violent river predators who raid weaker groups, taking what they desire and leaving suffering and carnage in their wake. They primarily navigate the riverways and carry their boats overland as needed. Their expertise lies in raiding settlements along riversides, and they have no qualms about opportunistically ambushing any poorly equipped river travelers they may come across. The Bloodgars view fear and plunder as equally valuable for asserting their power in the regions they operate in. Their targets are primarily foreign, launching frequent raids into the western river kingdoms, Razmaran, and even venturing as far south as Galt, while avoiding the treacherous forests of Keonin. Under the leadership of their current clan liege Gorak Maulhand, the Bloodgars seek increased tribute and have set their sights on conquering the protectorate of the Black Marquis. Such a conquest would establish them as the dominant river pirate group in northern Avestan. More details on the protectorate can be found in my River Kingdoms deep dive. The Ghost Wolves. The Ghost Wolves are a traditionalist, technology-loathing clan in western Numeria. Kevoth Cool's open acceptance of androids is just one of the many things that make them openly disavow the Black Sovereign. This clan only accepts new members through conquest, and mercilessly eliminate any suspected of using technology. They possess a significant number of spellcasters among their ranks, having concluded that magic is less perilous than unrestrained technology. Using invisibility to gain battlefield advantage, the Ghost Wolves have long exploited the fact that few robots can detect invisible foes. The Ghost Wolves' clan liege, Zol Nomag, is herself one of the more powerful figures in Numerian politics, and finds Kevoth Cool's cozying up to settled Kelids, androids, and outsiders nearly as much of an outrage as his apparent embrace of forbidden technologies. Kevoth Cool has mostly ignored the situation, but if tensions persist, it's only a matter of time before Kevoth Cool and Zol Nomag go to war. The Sunderhorns. The Sunderhorns can be found in the Sellen Hills region, and they stand out for their extensive mining operations. They hold permanent territories centered around a number of iron mines in the hills, and they also are known to engage in raids over the border in Brevoy. While several tribes may take thralls under certain circumstances, the Sunderhorn tribe stands out as a tribe that makes considerable use of thralls, and they are infamous for cruelly working their prisoners to death in their mines. Not surprisingly, the Brevik House Garrus, whose territories border the Sunderhorn territories, consider them a grave threat, and would gladly see them wiped out, but they've been dealing with a number of their own issues as well. See my Northeast Avestan deep dive video for more details on House Garrus. The current chieftain of the Sunderhorns is Clan Liege Givehalt, although he is more commonly known by the fearsome moniker of Rovagug's Nail. The Tiger Lords. Among Numeria's dominant clans, the Tiger Lords are the most nomadic, known for their extensive ranging, which takes them from the realm of the Mammoth Lords across the entirety of Numeria, stretching into Brevoy and the River Kingdoms, and even far off Iobaria. Along their journeys, the Tiger Lords have found a niche as mercenaries, and are frequently found in the employ of the River Kingdom of Pitax. This mercenary work has brought considerable wealth to the tribe, making them affluent compared to other nomadic tribes. However, it has also resulted in the dispersion of their people across different territories, weakening the bonds of kinship among distant members. During the events of the Kingmaker adventure path, it is likely that the Tiger Lord clan liege Armag the Twice-Born was slain, and if this is the case, it is not currently known who the new current clan liege is. The White Scars. Of all the Kelid clans, none were so obviously in the pocket of the Technic League as the White Scars. With the collapse of the League, the White Scars, though they remain the dominant clan of the Sovereign's Reach region, are having to reinvent themselves and find new purpose. With their close proximity to Starfall and the Silvermount, and their need to make amends with the Black Sovereign, the White Scars were the first of the clans to begin readily adopting androids into the clan itself. It is not known who the current clan liege of the White Scars clan is. Non-Khelids. In addition to the Khelid majority, a number of other human ethnic groups have settled into Numeria over the years. The most notable of these groups include Iobarian humans, who are the dominant peoples of Mendev and Brevoy, and who can be found in large numbers in the settlements along the Egglesey River, as well as in Chesed. Varisian humans from Ustalav have also settled in Numeria in the past for various reasons, their largest numbers being found in the small town of Dravod Nok, and in the town of Greymoor, located not far from the Lake of Mists and Vales. The dominant people of the river kingdoms are ethnically Taldan, and riverfolk settlers can be found all along the southern cities of Numeria, including places like Blackpipe and the large city of Hajoth Hakadoth. Finally, the city of Yadanve was actually founded by Molthuni exiles, an ethnically Chelish people whose origins trace back to the far southwestern reaches of Avestan. Beyond Iobarians, Varisians, Taldans, and Chelish peoples, various non-humans can be found in the area as well, including dwarves, elves, and especially keen-spark gnomes who are drawn to the technological wonders of the land. Numeria also boasts a large population of Isoki ratfolk, who have one of their largest Avestinian settlements at the Sellen Hills. The Technic League. The origins of the Technic League are rooted in a dark history of murder and betrayal, with its leaders still today not truly aware of the identity of its founder, Sidra Imerus. Sidra was once a soldier aboard the Divinity, the sole surviving human from the distant planet of Androffa. Encased in a functional life support pod, she remained in stasis for thousands of years until she was awakened by explorers only 200 years ago. Quickly learning of the Khelid aversion to technology, Sidra turned to arcane spellcasters, primarily wizards but also alchemists, magi, and sorcerers, forming the Technic League as a secret society. Her intention was to repair either the Silver Mount itself or a smaller vessel within it, enabling her to return home. Alternatively, she aimed to activate a distress beacon for assistance. Unfortunately, her second-in-command, a treacherous wizard named Mulrak Zir, betrayed and assassinated her, assuming leadership of the League. This act of treachery would shape the Technic League's trajectory for years to come. Instead of a collective of free thinkers driven by the pursuit of knowledge and support for their founder's quest, the League transformed into a ruthless and exclusive organization focused on amassing power. Sidra's loss proved costly for the Technic League's progress. It took them 3 years to discover how to access the Silver Mount, and much longer than this to understand how to make use of the land's valuable technology. However, with time and perseverance, the Technic League eventually developed functional energy weapons, technological tools, and an army of robotic soldiers known as the Gearmen. Fortunately, the Technic League was ousted from its position of power, and today it exists only as a shadowy cabal of disconnected organizations, no longer the vast power in Numeria that it once was. Androids. While a few surviving androids date all the way back to the crash of the Divinity itself, the majority of them were created from technological pods called foundries, which operate intermittently amidst the wreckage of the starship. These androids are born from these mechanical wombs, possessing mature bodies and newborn souls. They have no innate understanding of their surroundings, origins, or purpose, and must learn how to navigate their existence in this new world, as all other new things do, through new experiences. This makes young androids seem intelligent, yet deeply unwise. Androids are often characterized as logical introverts, displaying rationality and contemplation in their nature. They possess an insatiable curiosity and a strong desire to comprehend both themselves and the world that surrounds them. Intellectual pursuits hold great value to them. However, they struggle with interpreting and expressing their emotions, both within themselves and in others, which can make them appear distant and uncaring. While androids are capable of forming emotional connections, they have historically found it more challenging to establish meaningful bonds with non-androids. Androffa was a human planet, but beyond this not much is known about them. The androids themselves were designed to resemble Androffan humanity in its various aspects, resulting in a wide range of diversity among them, as the Androffan humanity comprised a wide array of ethnicities not radically dissimilar from those present on Golarion or our own world. Foundries produce androids that reflect different skin colors, ethnicities, heights, body shapes, and gender identities. Similar to humans, androids breathe, eat, and sleep, and they can engage in acts of physical love, although they are incapable of biological reproduction. Their bodies contain microscopic nanites carried by a fluid-like substance similar to blood, which manages their organic functions. These nanites are controlled through biological circuitry that resembles subcutaneous tattoos. Many androids can harness the power of their nanites to enhance their body's efficiency, causing the circuitry to emit a glowing light. Unlike humans, androids do not experience aging. However, after approximately a century of functioning, most androids feel their time drawing to a close, and this may be a pre-programmed response rather than a natural psychological inclination, and they will then willingly release their souls to the boneyard for judgment. Their bodies then enter a lifeless hibernation state, as their nanites initiate a restoration protocol to reset their synthetic forms to their original manufactured state. After a few weeks, a new soul enters the android's body, triggering a process known as renewal. This event is celebrated among androids akin to the birth of a child. Significantly, if an android dies due to violence, they cannot undergo renewal, so androids take great precautions to protect themselves and their fellow androids from harm. Due to a history of exploitation and enslavement at the hands of the Technic League, and destruction at the hands of their Kellid neighbors, androids have learned to hide in small secret communities in order to survive. Many choose to conceal their true natures, hiding their distinctive markings and wearing makeup and other disguises to better integrate into human society, or even adopting a solitary nomadic lifestyle. Maintaining secrecy has been crucial for androids, since larger groups tend to attract unwanted attention. It is only recently that androids have gained some level of acceptance in Numeria and abroad. Cassandali, the Iron Goddess. Cassandali's original android body was not constructed by the surviving foundries, but came with the starship Divinity to Golarion when it crashed during the Reign of Stars. Like all androids, the body outlasted the many cycles of lives that androids undergo. In fact, Cassandali herself was the 113th soul to inhabit her body, suggesting the body itself was over 11,000 years old. Cassandali's predecessor left Numeria behind, seeking a place where synthetic life would be more welcomed. Eventually she made her way to Alkenstar, a unique city on the eastern coast of Garand with a deep appreciation for things technological in nature. Her renewal as Cassandali was performed in a temple of Bry in Alkenstar. She grew up there, and she became an oracle in the subsequent years, living alongside Bry's priests. I will discuss Alkenstar in more detail in a future deep dive video. Eventually, Cassandali began to receive visions of an iron god within the Silvermount that needed her aid, so she abandoned Alkenstar and headed north towards Numeria as the visions became more compelling each day. Following this call, an unfortunate series of events culminated in Cassandali abandoning her physical body and uploading an AI version of herself to the wreckage of one of Divinity's many shuttles, a small ruined landing craft called the Aurora. In 4714, however, the Cassandali AI was rescued by a group of heroes as part of the Iron God's adventure path. It is in the course of those events that her AI acquired a spark of true divinity, and Cassandali herself became a demigoddess at the heart of the Silver Mount. Today, Cassandali is an extraordinary deity, whose divinity stems from a unique fusion of advanced science and faith. She now serves as the patron deity of artificial life, independent thinking, and the pursuit of intellectual transcendence. While she is occasionally referred to as the Iron Goddess, Cassandali transcends mere metal. She manifests herself as a holographic reconstruction of her android form, a female humanoid with vibrant purple hair, blue lips, and pale skin adorned with glowing circuitry. Upon closer examination, her image appears to consist of millions of intricate algorithms formed of pure light. Cassandali and her followers strive to encourage the progress of technology on Golarion, enabling its inhabitants to better comprehend and embrace the intricate workings of artificial life. Many androids consider themselves the chosen people of Cassandali and depict her as an android figure with additional circuitry or exposed components. As a relatively young deity, Cassandali possesses a small number of followers, primarily concentrated in Numeria. Beyond the borders of this country, her adherents are often seen as eccentric outsiders who wield advanced technological artifacts that appear to function like magic. A look at the 4 regions of Numeria. Sovereign's Reach. Sovereign's Reach serves as the geographic and political hub of Numeria, particularly in its capital city, Starfall. However, outside of Starfall and the Silvermount and a few small communities, the desolate plains of Numeria's heart offer little to govern. Nevertheless, every day explorers flock to the region, in the hopes of striking it rich by uncovering hidden technologies within the numerous crashed ship ruins scattered throughout Sovereign's Reach. Most significantly, until recently, this was the dominion and seat of power of the Technic League, which made it fairly unwelcoming to most of the native Kelid clans, except for the White Scars clan, which had been their allies. Now the White Scars are reinventing themselves, and the League have been pushed underground. Despite their organization being outlawed by the Black Sovereign, and this region being close to the capital, this region remains the part of the country where the largest number of Technic League survivors can still be found. Beyond the White Scars clan and hiding members of the old Technic League, the dry and barren flatlands are inhabited by tribes of orcs and giants, many of whom were pushed into the region during the Kelid conquest of Old Sarkoris, and many more of which were pushed into the region after the World Wound opened.
Important locations in Sovereign's Reach. Starfall and the Silver Mount. Among the vast number of half-ruined hulks that mar Numeria's landscape, none is as colossal or renowned as the imposing structure known as the Silver Mount. Standing at a towering height of over 1,500 feet, this jagged metallic peak extends deep into the earth, having been driven into the ground during its catastrophic descent to Golarion during the Reign of Stars. Within the recesses of the Silver Mount lie numerous intact chambers and passageways, once the laboratories, living quarters, and storage facilities of the massive spacecraft's crew. It is these perilous chambers that held the source of power that the Technic League once collected, enigmatic technologies that even their wisest members struggled to fully comprehend. Sprawling around the Silver Mount is the great Numerian city of Starfall. The origins of the settlement that would eventually become the city of Starfall can be traced back to the end of the third millennium. Initially, this served as a modest settlement, offering a place for explorers to rest and prepare before embarking on treacherous expeditions to the Silver Mount. It became a meeting point for adventurers to exchange stories, share tactics, and recruit assistance for their perilous endeavors. Only a few returned from these early expeditions, but one notable such person was the infamous Machine Mage, who besieged Absalom using the technology he found there from 3637 to 3639. Eventually, news of these expeditions reached the legendary totem warrior Amalokla, leader of a nearby, now extinct Numerian clan. She was appalled to learn that the sacred ruins were being tampered with, and used this as a rallying cry to unite the tribes. In 4031 she marched upon the nameless settlement with her horde of barbarians and beasts of war, including her twin pet Orumvraxes. Devastating the inhabitants, she claimed the site as her own and named it Starfall, taking on the title of the Black Sovereign. Amalokla ruled Starfall for many years, upholding the taboos and overseeing the construction of the initial dome of the Palace of Fallen Stars. However, upon her demise, the position of the Black Sovereign remained vacant. Several years later, another warlord gathered tribes under his banner and attacked Starfall, seizing the title of Black Sovereign for himself, and further expanding the Palace of Fallen Stars. This cycle continued for centuries, with Starfall becoming the coveted prize for barbarian warlords who managed to unite enough tribes, and the title of Black Sovereign becoming synonymous with the ruler of Numeria. Records documenting the exact number of Black Sovereigns who reigned in Starfall are not complete. Some left significant legacies, such as Ontar, an unusually hospitable Black Sovereign who granted the Pathfinder Gojin Sharp permission to explore the Silvermount. However, most rulers faded into obscurity, their names lost to the annals of time. Nevertheless, with each successive rule, Starfall grew in size and influence. The Technic League made its first appearance in Starfall in 4509, during a period when the city lacked a Black Sovereign. Finding Starfall in a state of anarchy, the League swiftly established a position of dominance through their mastery of magic and technology. Shortly after their arrival, the then leader of the League, Sidra Imerus, was assassinated, paving the way for the new leaders to assert their control over Starfall and lay claim to Silvermount. In 4690, when Kevoth Kul arrived in Starfall, he discovered the Technic League firmly entrenched in the city. Surprisingly, they surrendered without resistance, allowing Kevoth Kul to take up residence within the Palace of Fallen Stars. He quickly became addicted to the arcane fluids provided by the League. The rest we already know. The addictive and soporific properties of the substances being given to the Black Sovereign were revealed. Kevoth Kul came to his senses. The Technic League was hunted down. Kevoth continues to rule as Black Sovereign from the Palace of Fallen Stars, now in greater possession of his faculties and determined to right the many wrongs he committed in his period of malaise. Starfall is a difficult city to love. It isn't close to any natural water source like most capital cities, so it heavily relies on imported food and water, which means various guilds compete to distribute these necessities throughout the city, employing citizens as guards, runners, messengers, and delivery agents. Water is stored in guarded towers located strategically around the city, and rain barrels and other primitive collection methods are used in some areas during the rainy season. The guilds employ enforcers known as smashers to prevent circumvention of buying water, aggressively punishing those who attempt to siphon water illegally. Food is stored in well-guarded silos and warehouses and is equally well protected. The lack of viable water sources near the city has also resulted in the absence of a traditional sewer system. Instead, refuse and waste are incinerated in 6 large incinerators spread throughout Starfall. The black plumes of smoke rising from these incinerators give the city its characteristic foul stench and serve as the primary source of the city's pollution. Operating the incinerators requires skilled individuals, as any mishap could have dangerous consequences. Burners, despite their dirty and challenging job, earn relatively stable wages and wear protective gear, including fire-treated leather coats, heavy gloves, smoke goggles, and specialized breathing masks. One notable legacy of the Technic League's openness to technology is the common use of galvanic streetlights, which illuminate most of the city's wide thoroughfares at all hours of the night, keeping the city more or less perpetually lit. The largest thoroughfare runs between the city's 2 gates, dividing Starfall into 2 halves. The street is bustling with businesses of various kinds, and the bright lights dispel the darkness from the constantly open storefronts. The Street of Light hosts numerous drinking houses, drug dens, hostels, and inns, providing entertainment and refuge for visitors. However, caution is advised to outsiders not to venture too far off from the street, as the labyrinthine alleys beyond are treacherous, and the hard city life breeds a number of impoverished and desperate locals, all too happy to prey on the foolish. Starfall is divided into 4 districts. Sovereign's Watch. The northernmost part of Starfall, Sovereign's Watch, is the oldest and most affluent neighborhood in the city. Prominent Kelid families and leaders reside here. Skywatch, a towering metal structure, provides panoramic views of the surrounding wasteland and serves as the city's foremost watchtower. The wealthy have always had more leeway when it came to educating themselves about technology, and here engineers and artisans had established their shops even when the Technic League had a stranglehold on this kind of learning. Such engineers have always set high prices for their creations, and this is as true today as it ever was. The Inner Sector. The Central District contains an open hilltop and is home to only 2 permanent structures, the Palace of Fallen Stars and a reclaimed compound that once served as the home of the Technic League. It is not known what this compound is used for today. In the hill's open fields, the elite guards and soldiers of the Black Sovereign can be seen, incessantly drilling to keep up their honed combat skills. Gritforge. Located in the southeast, Gritforge is Starfall's industrial district. It houses numerous forges that operate day and night. Madboar Salvage, a renowned shop run by the grizzled dwarf Madboar, offers the best prices for salvaged goods without asking too many questions about their origin. The Killbox. West of the Street of Lights lies the Killbox, the most densely populated and poverty-stricken district in Starfall. Narrow alleyways and makeshift shacks define this area, earning its name for the high number of assaults and murders that occur there. The slums of Killbox offer illicit drugs and questionable services, attracting those who wish to disappear. The vertical junkyard of Scrap Hole, operated by dwarves, is a notable landmark in this district. The Tomb of Queen Bolliga. Located some 50 miles northeast of Starfall is the Tomb of Queen Bolliga, the great warrior queen of old, who died defending Numeria from invading giants from the north. 2 titanic battles took place at this site, one in which the hill giant war chief Urgo Axebiter was slain, and a later one in which Urgo's surviving generals were defeated, but Bolliga herself was slain. After the first battle, the hill giants built a vast tomb and buried Urgo there, and after the second battle, the Kelid victors, when they realized war chief Urgo's tomb was proving too deadly for them to loot, decided to build a new structure on top of it and seal their queen within. The 2-tiered tomb of Queen Bolliga and Urgo still loom over the region, a testament to barbarian strength. Unknown to the Kelids that buried Queen Bolliga, War Chief Urgo Axebiter was possessed of a powerful magical artifact called the Northmound's Ruby, which was entombed beneath the earth with him. Over time, the magical ruby brought Urgo back to life, but by the time it did so, he had already been sealed within his cairn by the second tomb above. Urgo now exists as an undead being, an immense monster with the traits of a vampire and a ghoul. He patiently awaits the day when his descendants will free him from his eternal prison. In the present day, Urgo's descendants have returned to the region, possibly drawn to him by the power of the ruby. Various tribes of hill giants, along with their allies, the Ettins and the Trolls, engage in constant conflict and vie for control over the battleground above. Alunus and Lackthroat. These two settlements dot the Egglesey River and were frequently used by crusaders traveling from the Lake of Mists and Vales to reinforce Nerosian and the warfront. Although technically located on the Numerian side of the border, they were originally settled and established by Iobarian Mendevians, and were discussed in more detail in my Northeast Avestan deep dive video, so I won't cover them again here. Greymoor. From its inception, the tranquil town of Greymoor has enjoyed a unique state of peace amid the surrounding violence and chaos, thanks to financing from the wealthy Ustalavic Greymoor family, who immigrated here, established a large manor house in the center of town, and built large walls and sturdy dwellings for the townsfolk to help keep them safe from raiders. Unlike other wealthy settlers who have come to Numeria over the years, the Greymoors have managed the rare task of skillfully navigating through challenges posed by barbarian raiders, the Technic League's investigations, and monstrous adversaries using diplomacy, wit, and unwavering determination. Lord Cheldane Greymoor, the head of the family, has for many years now also served as the de facto town mayor. Lord Greymoor was an alchemist of renown, as well as a nobleman, and he would come to Numeria to find rare alien technologies to improve his craft. Unfortunately, his secret experiments were cut short when the Technic League discovered his work. In 4611, just over 120 years ago now, they launched a raid into his Numerian workshop to halt his research and retrieve his technology. Employing a device of his own design, Lord Greymoor executed a phase shift maneuver that transported himself, his wife, and two daughters into an alternate quantum state, preserving them in a suspended state of time and space for their protection. The device malfunctioned, however, and they were not restored after the raid. Instead, 20 years later, the scientist reappeared in his abandoned workshop, alone and without the means to restore his family. Lord Greymoor now suffers from a peculiar affliction. He exists for only 16 hours each day. After that, he fades away beyond any known reality. His current theory suggests that he enters a state of non-existence or quantum flux. To further complicate matters, he is bound to the precise location where he initially materialized. Whenever Greymoor moves beyond a 4-mile radius of his home, even by magical means, he vanishes until the next cycle. One positive aspect of his condition is his apparent immunity to physical aging. Throughout the past century, he has gathered followers and allies, constructed a home, studied magic, established a town, and gradually expanded his dominion over the surrounding land. Greymoor has repeatedly staged his own death, and skillfully inserted himself back into his own family history. A masterful swordsman, marksman, and magician, he has engaged in duels with barbarian chieftains, entertained Pathfinders, and matched wits with captains of the Technic League. Yet he remains trapped like an insect in amber. Presently operating under the guise of one of his own descendants from a later generation, Lord Greymoor continues to work tirelessly to free his lost family and to escape his own prison. Visitors should note that surviving in Numeria on charisma alone is impossible. Behind his charming and refined facade lies a ruthless personality. However, he does genuinely care for his confidants, especially his great-granddaughter, Urita, whose grandfather, Lord Greymoor's only son, was thankfully away and running errands in Chesed when the Technic League raided the workshop and the rest of Greymoor's family was lost in the quantum flux. He is also close to his loyal valet and major domo, Delos, an android that has now been alive for well over the customary 100 years, but whose loyalty to Lord Greymoor and his mission have kept him from shutting himself down. Togrim's Cache. A shallow ravine known locally as the Silver Trough lies 3 days' ride southwest of Chesed, not far from the main artery of the Sellen River. In this ravine, a large, intact starship module remains relatively undamaged. However, this module of the starship was once a part of a network of point defense systems dedicated to housing combat robots, delivering power to one of the ship's large weapons, and coordinating other security operations. As such, the ravine has been crawling with dangerous robots and has been largely avoided by the Technic League for being too dangerous. One individual did, however, make his way carefully into the structure. The dwarf prince Togrim, the eldest son of King Gutheren, the last king of the dwarf sky citadel of Yormer Dun, and there he hid his own piece of the Sky Key. Eventually, the Pathfinder Society learned of this, and during the series of linked Pathfinder Society adventure paths known as the Sky Key Solution, a group was dispatched to recover this piece from the Silver Trough. The Hollow Garden. Although many of the points of interest I am highlighting in my Numeria deep dive are described as places that locals avoid, no place is higher on this list than the Hollow Gardens. When the Divinity crash-landed, a large section of an entertainment deck slammed into the lowlands of Sovereign's Reach. Damaged and without access to the backup system of the ship's main computers, the subsystem that ran the holographic and modular entertainment rooms lost what little mind it had. The virtual reality system creates virtualized environments for those lost unfortunate souls that happen to stumble into it. The AI scans the newcomers' minds and seeks out their hopes, dreams, loves, fears, suspicions, and convictions. Using technology originally designed to allow the robot to provide clients with the ultimate relaxing experience, to instead create a terrible gauntlet from which only the most skilled or fortunate survive. Those few harrowed survivors have warned others to stay away, but still occasional travelers will find themselves trapped in the Hollow Garden's virtual gaming system. To make matters worse, some years ago, a group of demons managed to flee into Numeria when the wardstones failed after Kenebres was attacked. The AI had never seen demons before, and was impressed by their capacity for cruelty and perversion, so it now makes use of these beings and releases them into scenes as desired to heighten the action. Vlatherex, the incubus leader of this band of demons, has begun to realize the AI has no intention of allowing them to leave. He and his demonic allies, who are capable of teleportation, have noticed that they are unable to use this ability within the Hollow Garden, leaving the ancient demon with a sinking realization that it's dealing with a system older, more powerful, and more sinister than even itself. The First Blade's Path. The border between the Numerian Plains and Sovereign's Reach in the north is marked by what some theorized might have been an ancient riverbed, although its straight trajectory suggests it might have been caused by something less natural. Stretching for hundreds of miles until it reaches the Sellen River, this pathway measures approximately 3/4 of a mile in width and 150 feet in depth. Local inhabitants hold the belief that the path was formed when the Herald of Gorum, known as the First Blade, hauled a dangerous extraterrestrial weapon from its resting place south of Starfall towards the east for a purpose unknown to them. It is still considered a holy place to worshippers of Gorum today, and his faithful will often traverse the path in search of divine visions and insights from their god. The Felldales. The westernmost region of Numeria is called the Felldales, and although it is located quite some distance from both the Silver Mount and Sovereign's Reach, it was the region most heavily bombarded by falling space junk in the Reign of Stars. As a result, the Felldales is a hazardous wasteland haunted by robots who are either malfunctioning or whose original programming makes them at best instinctively hostile to organic creatures and at worst outright murderous to anything that moves. The presence of otherworldly creatures brought to Golarion from the Reign of Stars further adds to the region's perils. Some such examples include the dreaded moonflowers, which are intelligent carnivorous plants, and the voraciously gluttonous Orumvirax, an 8-legged cat-like predator that emerged from the wreckage thousands of years ago and has since spread throughout the region. On top of all this, a century ago, as the world wound tore open, a multitude of beings sought refuge from Sarkoris and the Felldales. Among them were Kelid refugees, various examples of the large megafauna common to the Sarkorian steppe, such as woolly rhinos and wild mammoths, as well as various tribes of giants, mostly stone and hill giants. Now they reside in scattered tribes, struggling to survive in a harsh environment and constantly facing threats posed by the region's native dangers. A thin strip of arable land clings to the banks of the West Sellen River, so the majority of the human population can be found within a few dozen miles of the river, while the bulk of the region is a blasted wilderness of crags, ravines, and badlands. Important locations in the Felldales. Aramor. The keep of Aramor and the city that subsequently sprouted around it were established as a redoubt against the threat of giants and trolls from the north, after the Kelids united under Queen Bolaga to repel an invading force of these creatures. During the recent era of the Mendevian Crusades, Aramor also served as a redoubt to protect the Numerian border from demonic invaders as well. Today it serves as the provincial capital of the Numerian Felldales. The city of Aramor is home to a large and influential clan of Kelids known as the Blades of Aramor, or more commonly simply as the Blades. Both the keep and the clan were named for a Kelid champion in the First War, who had been a one-time rival and eventual consort of Queen Bolaga Barsolm. In addition to the skilled warriors of the Blades clan, who had long defended Numeria's northern border, the city is populated by merchants, skilled tradespeople, and various laborers who provide upkeep for the palisaded fields to the northwest of the town. The town has been struggling economically since the world wound closed, as Crusaders can no longer be found in large numbers moving into and out of the region to the north, so the Blades clan may soon have to find new purpose for themselves. Notable figures in town include clan liege Hrothgar, whose sharp mind hasn't dulled with age, and who continues to lead his clan after the close of the world wound. He is a man that takes his oaths of fealty seriously, and has remained loyal to the Black Sovereign despite all of the information that has come out about his being controlled by the Technic League, and despite the fact that Kevoth Kul himself had not been particularly helpful to Hrothgar and his clan in terms of supporting the war effort against the demons. Hrothgar did, however, take great pleasure in hanging Cannith, the corrupt Technic League emissary that had previously been an important figure in the city. 2 important priests and their clergies can also be found in the city as well. Shepherd Una leads the local church of Erastil in the northwestern district, providing for the material and spiritual needs of the farmers and laborers, while Andura Jakos, a brilliant tactician and high priestess of the Church of Gorum, had always openly encouraged her faithful to travel up the river to Nerosian and join the Mendevian Crusaders. Now she encourages the Goramites to root out what remains of the Technic League and bring them to justice as per the Black Sovereign's commands. Dravod Nok. Situated on the eastern banks of Lake Porphyria, directly opposite the refined Ustalavic city of Kharkau, lies a small and impoverished village, comprised of a mix of both Keled people and Varisian people, who for whatever reason do not wish to live under the purview of Ustalavic law. Despite its challenges, this village, home to nearly 1,300 residents, has managed to sustain itself for centuries. The Noks, as the residents of Dravod Nok are often called, reside in crude wooden shacks built above the muddy shore of the lake, constantly toiling to make a living. They engage in activities such as hauling clay for fired bricks and dredging for bulbous-eyed mudfish. The clay is traded across the lake, while the fish provide sustenance without the need for venturing deep into the Felldales. This close-knit and poverty-stricken community experiences little local crime. The common struggle they share unites them. Jory Wigthane, the current chief, holds authority over the village. Because it is a small, isolated community, outsiders are welcome to marry into it, but they must commit to settling there and sharing in the labor if they do so. Those merely passing through are explicitly warned not to interfere with the mud brides of the Nok or face severe consequences. The punishment for attempting to seduce a potential childbearing adult is banishment to a vast expanse of quicksand that allows the accused only a brief window to beg for forgiveness before being swallowed up by the mud, never to be seen again. The Scar of the Spider. The Scar of the Spider is a narrow gorge-like vale in the southwestern Felldales of Numeria, just north of the West Sellen River. Generally avoided by everyone, this valley of grey stone is so named because foundries here produce large robotic arachnid creatures that stalk the territory. It is considered very dangerous, and most locals know well to avoid the area. It was in the Scar of the Spider that adventurers found the wreckage of the Aurora shuttle and then recovered the AI that would become the goddess Cassandali. Castle Urian. In 4629, the Knights of Urian approached the then Black Sovereign, Traskind Elfi, seeking permission to construct a military base in Numeria's southwestern corner. Their purpose was to safeguard the northerly portion of the river road, ensuring the safe passage of crusaders and missionaries heading to the world wound, and made it clear that although the keep would serve as a way station in the crusade, that it was being constructed as a gift to the Numerians. The Black Sovereign agreed. Over the years, Castle Urian fulfilled its mission, protecting travelers and aiding the war effort against the demonic hordes. In the waning years of the Fifth Crusade, a scandal struck the castle, as crusaders discovered a cache of technological weapons that they had begun to smuggle into Mendev, hoping they could be put to use against the demons. Then the Technic League collapse occurred in 4714, and in the ensuing chaos Urian's secret trade was uncovered, and much of these technological marvels were handed over to the Black Sovereign to keep the peace. After the World Wound's closure, the castle itself should theoretically have been handed over to the Numerians, as per their initial agreement, but this has not occurred. The Crusaders marching south from the World Wound soon found a new target for their righteous energy, the re-emerged Lich King in the land southwest of Ustalav. Castle Urian serves as well as a barracks for that war effort as for the northern one, and so it has remained in the hands of Crusaders. The Black Sovereign, Kevoth Kul, has not pushed them out yet, and so far doesn't seem to think it would be diplomatically expedient to do so at this time. The half-elven Iomedean paladin commander Carolus Minoran therefore still maintains command at the castle, managing the delicate diplomacy of retaining control of a keep she technically no longer has any right to. The Plain of 10,000 Swords. As described in my history section, the Plain of 10,000 Swords is the site of a vast battle that once looked like it might determine the fate of the nation. A great curse fell on these dead warriors, preventing their souls from reaching the boneyard. Pharasma, recognizing the overwhelming number of trapped spirits, dispatched a trio of psychopomps to aid in guiding the deceased to the River of Souls. Despite their efforts, the fields proved too powerful, even for these otherworldly beings, and the psychopomps remained, but only to prevent additional souls from joining the multitude that were already bound to the plain. Even to this day, mortals who die on this cursed plain become trapped there as well, bound by the hatred and curses of the fallen Kelid chieftains. Each weapon buried in the field here houses the spirit of its former wielder. At the heart of the field, the leader of this ghostly legion, the powerful spirit of Hrothga's Spiteblade, lingers, the first to strike down her own chieftain. Legends speak of her sword as an intelligent vorpal weapon. Hrothga's spirit remains trapped until she attains her chieftain's forgiveness, an unlikely and possibly impossible feat to lay her spirit to rest. Until some brave heroes manage to solve this conundrum, the plain will likely remain haunted and watched over by the psychopomps who guide the foolish away. Adding to the complexity of the situation, a small cult devoted to Xiphus, the god of pointless deaths, has been drawn to the field. Led by their high priest Ichadros Chardris, these cultists seek to revel in the sight of senseless slaughter. As the psychopomps work tirelessly to repel any cultists who approach the field, the cult itself makes its home just beyond the field's edge. They set traps for unsuspecting adventurers and work to ensure the demise of any who have claimed one of the field's many swords. The Witchlight Veil. As described in my history section, the Numerian superstition around technology has its roots in an ancient event in which a Kelid clan liege unwittingly triggered a nuclear reaction, throwing up a great mushroom cloud of radiation and destroying his entire clan in the process. Today, the site of this ancient disaster is called the Witchlight Veil. At the center of the veil lies a worn crater devoid of life, enveloped in faintly glowing mists and vapors that cast an eerie radiance upon the stones and soil. Beyond the unsettling radioactive mists and mutated creatures that stalk the lands beyond the crater, a dreadful presence haunts the veil at night. This entity takes the form of an almost invisible massive beast, emanating a dim light. Only a handful of accounts exist about this entity, originating from travelers who abandoned their companions to meet their demise at the phantom creature's claws and teeth. Because this is reckoned to be the only way to have encountered the beast and survive, in northern Numeria the phrase, "one who has seen the witchlight," refers to a treacherous coward. Throughout the centuries, druids have marked the known borders of this area using squat menhirs adorned with warning sigils. These menhirs are often infused with the strongest protective magic that the druids can muster to keep the beasts inside and deter the curious or unaware from entering. However, these boundaries have shifted over time, resulting in old stones being found well within the current borders of the Vale. Those stones often bear signs of defacement, indicating that the more intelligent denizens of Witchlight Vale are aware of the stone's purpose, and that more ominously, they do not approve. Curratown. Curratown is not a Kelid settlement, although some brave Kelids and even some androids do make their home there. Curratown is instead an orc settlement, situated on the borders with the more fertile Numerian Plains region, and when times are lean, it's quite common for the orcs and their allies of Curratown to raid the farmland settlements of the plains for food and supplies. Although the Kelids of the Numerian Plains would like nothing more than to stamp out the settlement of Curratown, the Felldales are dangerous lands, and their perils are well understood by the orcs, but poorly understood by outsiders. The current leader of Curratown is the city's founder, the now venerable orc named Warchief Curra. The Numerian Plains. Among the 4 regions of Numeria, the Numerian Plains stand out as relatively safe and more civilized compared to the rest of the land. However, obviously not so when compared with other nations within the Inner Sea region. The Numerian Plains are the most fertile areas within the nation, which is to simply say that crops are able to grow here, and what little farmland exists in Numeria can be found here. The agricultural significance of these regions is so paramount that the Black Sovereign spares great effort ensuring others largely refrain from interfering with the area. However, keeping the region safe is costly, and Numeria is large, so orc raiders from Curratown and other areas continue to be a problem. Important locations in the Numerian Plains. Hadjoth Hakados. This rather grandiose southern city is the largest in the Numerian Plains region and effectively serves as the provincial capital. It has a long history, being settled in the wake of the Taldan collapse and the emergence of the various river kingdoms to the south. However, due to instability in the region known as the Lorik Fells, Hadjoth Hakados became first an independent city-state, and later, after Numerian unification at the hands of the first Black Sovereign Amalokla, a significant member state of the nation of Numeria. Unlike many other Numerian settlements, it does not comprise a largely Kelid population, but a mixed population of Kelids, Taldans, Dwarves, and many other diverse peoples, which explains its long-standing different attitude towards the technologies of Numeria. For many years, Hadjoth Hakados was the best location to acquire black market Numerian technologies. It may still be so, in fact. Few have the infrastructure for this kind of trade like the Hakadosi do. The city also welcomed androids into its population long before the fall of the Technic League. When, under the influence of the Technic League, the Black Sovereign Kevoth Kul had the Pathfinder Society Lodge at Starfall razed and outlawed the organization, the Pathfinder Lodge at Hadjoth Hakados became the only such location left standing in the country. Now that the Technic League has been disbanded and the Pathfinder Society has been re-accepted by Kevoth Kul, the Lodge at Hadjoth Hakados still remains their principal center of operations in Numeria. Venture Captain Dagger Hawksight oversees this lodge. The city has thrived on its reputation for tolerance and political neutrality, accommodating many diverse factions such as the Pathfinder Society, the Aspis Consortium, various churches, Kelid tribes, and mercenary organizations like the Steel Phalanx. Moreover, Hadjoth Hakados has become a refuge for the land's few aliens. 2 aliens, in fact, hold significant positions of power in the city. The first is Lady Altuna, the city's mayor, who is in fact a Lashunta alien, whose people originate from the same world the elves originally came from. In fact, she poses as a half-elf when on formal diplomatic missions, hiding her antenna and face ridges with wigs and makeup. Her chief advisor is Witchweird Kitharul, an alchemist and scholar, and an expert on sky metals and other alien technologies. The Witchweird are another alien species, a 4-armed species related to the Kasatha, another alien species often found in Golarion solar system. Lady Altuna and Sithrul are both scholars of esoterica, frequently collaborating to solve complex scientific and magical problems. They have also established a covert network dedicated to discovering, liberating, and smuggling alien species and androids from the depths of Numeria's ruins. They know that countless alien visitors remain trapped in stasis within these locations. Hadjoth Hakados is home to only a small number of such aliens. Others have been smuggled out of Numeria, especially when the Technic League was in control, as they considered it their right to capture and study even sentient life forms. Rescuing and hiding these aliens, however, came at the cost of having to negotiate passage for them with the Bloodgar clan. Lady Altuna offers substantial compensation to these river pirates in exchange for their cooperation and silence. Zamrek's Haven. Zamrek's Haven, located near the western edge of the Numerian Plains, stands as one of the few permanent android settlements. Concealed within a network of natural geological caverns, the enclave remains hidden from all those except those chosen by its inhabitants. Originally established by a charismatic and visionary android named Zamrak shortly after the rise of the Technic League, the Haven's primary purpose was to provide a sanctuary for persecuted androids. It offered a safe and secure place for androids at the end of their lives, granting them renewal and companionship in a hostile and unforgiving world. Currently, Nelris Sargal leads Zamrek's Haven, residing in the same body that once belonged to the settlement's founder. Nelris safeguards her people with a growing army of robots sourced from various locations across Numeria, or acquired through covert means from the Technic League. They staunchly defend their home against non-android intruders, allowing only select individuals who can contribute to the colony's research to remain. A recent and unsettling development in Zamrek's Haven is the spread of a philosophy called the Path of the Constructed, which holds the view of the superiority of constructed life over biological equivalents. Marstal. This particular village stands as a prominent farming settlement within the expansive Numerian Plains, serving as a representative example of such locations. These small communities are predominantly located along the shores of either the Dagger River or the Seven Tears River, and are generally tended to by older Kelids who are no longer able to engage in battle and protect their clan. The towns allocate their agricultural yields and livestock among the participating tribes on a seasonal basis. Any surplus produce is sold to itinerant merchants passing through the area who convey them to larger cities. As a combined market and distribution center, the settlement of Marstal has been drawn into intertribal conflicts in the past. However, most chieftains recognize that engaging in such disputes jeopardizes their own survival and could potentially provoke intervention from the Black Sovereign. Yadenve. This is another unique village in Numeria, not Kelid, but ethnically Chelish and culturally Malthuni. In 4649, when supporters of Nirmathi secession were exiled from Malthun, nearly 400 of the newly homeless dissidents set out north from the capital city of Canarate. After crossing Lastwall and Ustalav, they made their way into southern Numeria, before they beheld a majestic red elk standing atop a rocky hill, seemingly abandoned by the locals. These outcasts, predominantly followers of Erastil, took the elk as a sign to settle the area, naming their town Yadenve to honor the Lastwall patron who had funded their exodus. The settlers repaired the earthen wall around the rock and laid out the streets that ring the brow in a methodical pattern resembling those of Malthuni cities. The new land was full of wild game, but only the vast herds of elk seemed free of the strange mutations common to the area's other creatures. The settlers took the untainted elk herds as another sign that their home was blessed by Erastil, and crowned their settlement's walls with antlers in his honor. The people of Yadenve are hard-working and pious. Though the town is only 75 years old, the community is now well established. The average adult in Yadenve plies the trade of her parents, and teaches it to her children. Worship of Erastil is nearly universal, and many citizens boast of seeing Erastil atop the brow in the form of a red elk, half obscured by morning mists. Brother Gahor Devyek, the town's high priest, enriches the community's crops with liberal use of the plant growth spell and oversees a dozen part-time acolytes. Like most of Yadenve's citizens, the acolytes also work as hunters, farmers, and trappers, though the town also boasts several skilled stonemasons, cobblers, and brewers. The townspeople shun alien technology in all forms. Visitors with advanced Numerian technology are given a cold welcome, and upon the slightest suspicion of trouble, ejected forcibly from town. Magic that closely approximates technology, particularly alchemy and construct crafting, tends to make locals nervous as well, but not nearly as much as brazen displays of super science. This is not surprising. Many of Yadenve's older residents bear mutations such as extra digits or animalistic features, triggered by drinking tainted water in their youth or inherited from their elders. They are now extremely careful to purify all food and drink before it is consumed. Yadenve is ruled by the 18-member Deadeye Council. Although the council consists predominantly of prosperous elderly citizens, the few exceptions, such as the young hunter Redfang and the town surveyor Theska Longeye, often sway the voting of the stodgy assembly. For day-to-day governance, the Deadeye Council appoints an elderman, and the current elderman is the affable Ivik Gunnet. Yadenve is also the regional headquarters of the Banner of the Stag, an organization dedicated to protecting small communities and outposts by training local militias and coordinating inter-community defense. The Banner of the Stag also investigates serious crimes in Yadenve, such as arson and murder, and favors swift, decisive execution to demonstrate vigilance and deter wrongdoing in others. There are a couple of other locations located within 50 miles or so of Yadenve that are connected to the town. To the west is the Rose War Fields, a location where the citizens of Yadenve fought and slew a body thief plant, a kind of intelligent plant organism that consumes and replaces people with podborne seedlings. The body thief's podborne were discovered to have been infiltrating the town of Yadenve within the first few years of the settlers arriving there. The hero that died slaying the body thief, a ranger named Barton Cabers, is remembered with a wooden statue in the center of town. East of Yadenve, instead, is a sooty black tower that rises above the surrounding forest and bears a spiky crown of exhaust pipes and chimneys, belching trails of smoke that can be seen for miles. Furcus Zood, a wizard and one-time adept of the Technic League, built the choking tower in 4703 after having settled in Yadenve. The memory of Zood and his machinations are one of the many reasons the citizens of Yadenve remain so skeptical of those who study technology even to this day. Torch. The village of Torch takes its name from the violet flames that burn atop its central hill. The fires ignited spontaneously in 4602, and for nearly a year they lanced into the sky, forming a purple column of fire that could be seen for miles around. At the time, the Technic League was experiencing a period of upheaval in Starfall, and its agents were unable to investigate the rumors of the column of fire to the south. By 4604, the flames had died down to a manageable bonfire, leaving the top of the hill blasted and blackened. Several industrious locals soon discovered the flames' heat possessed two unusual qualities. First, that it was hot enough to melt sky metal ores and work with difficult materials like adamantine, and second, that the fires themselves radiated a strangely directional heat. A chunk of wood thrown a dozen feet over the fires would instantly burst into flame, yet a piece of paper set a foot from the bonfire's edge wouldn't even smolder. This unique combination of traits made the fire a perfect forge. After a few sudden flare-ups resulted in the tragic incineration of several smiths and their partially completed forges, the townsfolk learned how to interpret the flares and flashes that presage such eruptions. Rather than build permanent structures around the fire, they came to rely upon portable workshops transported up the hills via wagon or carriage, so that when the fire began one of its unpredictable surges, the smiths could retreat to safety to wait for the blast of fire to recede. In this way, the torch has sustained itself. By the time the Technic League sorted out its internal politics and sent representatives to investigate, in 4612, its agents found a burgeoning village growing around the base of the hill. After a cursory examination of the fire, representatives from the Technic League met with the village's elders and worked out a deal. As long as Torch sent a monthly tribute of gold north to Starfall, the Technic League would not maintain an official presence in the region. In this way, the League turned what could have been competition, since at that time it still lacked the resources to effectively manage a remote site, into a source of income. Over the decades that followed, Torch grew steadily, yet never truly prospered because the Technic League constantly revised the amount of tribute it required. In the 10 years or so since the Technic League has been disbanded, however, Torch has flourished, and may soon rival the city of Hadjoth Hakados for regional influence in the Numerian Plains. Like Yadenve, Torch is overseen by a council of town elders. Among the 5 that serve in this capacity, the elder woman Sarantha Ollendir serves as the charismatic and influential head of the town council. She lost her husband some years ago to a back-alley mugging near Silverdisc Hall, a renowned gambling den, and since then she's made it her mission to ensure Torch doesn't become a den of crime and corruption by taking a more direct hand in shaping its politics. Another prominent figure on the council is the High Cleric of Bry, Joram Kite. Bronze wind chimes and clockwork statues decorate the domed portico of Numeria's largest temple, dedicated to the goddess of invention. The Black Horse Outpost. This reinforced fort, which includes an extensive stables, serves as the seat of power of the Black Horse clan, the clan of which Kevoth Kul himself was once a part. The Black Sovereign's own cousin, Cragreth Kul, now has leadership of the clan. Visitors who pass through the gates, discovering small wooden enclosures separated by vegetable gardens, are unlikely to know that this outpost is situated above several underground complexes where for many years Cragreth Kul and the Black Horses have been selectively breeding Vexgit gremlins as a means of combating the Technic League. What has happened to this operation in the aftermath of the League's defeat is not known, but given gremlin tendencies to breed uncontrollably, it's entirely possible Cragreth Kul ultimately abandoned his project and may even need help cleansing the lower levels of his outpost from the malicious critters. Blackpipe. This humble settlement of farmers and herders takes its name from a remarkable feature in the midst of its fertile lands, an adamantine cylinder that protrudes from the ground. The metallic pipe appears to be made of pure adamantine, yet its peculiar brittleness suggests an unusual transformation that has compromised its integrity. Though a tight fit for a human, it is still possible to crawl down the pipe. It extends 15 feet above the surface and descends a further 40 feet down, culminating in a curious iris-like door. This door is known to open and close unpredictably, occasionally granting access to a mysterious complex below. The village elder Gonton, a wise and respected cleric of Erastil, plays a pivotal role in ensuring the smooth functioning of the community. Through shrewd alliances, Gonton has established close ties with neighboring barbarian tribes, offering them food in exchange for their protective services, and thus fostering a sense of security and stability within the village. The Sellen Hills. The Sellen Hills are the easternmost region of Numeria, bordered by the Sellen River on the west and the nation of Brevoy in the east. Similar to the Felldales, the hills themselves are wild and largely untamed, so much of the human population of the region hugs tightly to the safety of the Sellen River. The Sellen River itself is a bustling thoroughfare, witnessing a constant flow of river traffic, ferrying goods and travelers between the vibrant city of Hadjoth Hakados and the grand metropolis of Chesed. Important locations in the Sellen Hills. Chesed. The grand metropolis of Numeria stands not only as a regional capital, but also as the largest city in the country, eclipsing even Starfall in its size and grandeur. Over the past century, the influx of crusaders since the First Crusade caused a tremendous surge in river travel through Chesed. Trade reigned supreme in this bustling city, with politics serving as its faithful servant and wealth acting as its ruthless enforcer. Among the settlements in Numeria, Chesed boasts the highest degree of law and order, making it the prime destination for visitors to the nation. The city's industrial sector is primarily located on the eastern side of the Sellen River, with copious butcher shops, tanneries, and alchemical laboratories. The persistent raids from the barbarian tribes located in the hills, locally referred to as barrow sieges, have compelled the government of Chesed to relocate the so-called New Heart district on the west bank of the river. Consequently, its most affluent residents and prestigious establishments have followed suit. At the helm of the city stands Council Master Harpram Gavers, known as Guilt Hand for his shrewd business acumen, eagerness to accept bribes, and skill in consensus building. Gavers is well aware that most of Numeria is not as well off as his own city, and he is therefore very careful to ensure that all his actions align with the approval of the Black Sovereign, lest the vast wealth of Chesed be redistributed elsewhere in the nation. A notable event in Chesed's history occurred in 4309, when the Lawgiver, the demigod herald of Abadar, manifested near the Sable Barrow just outside the city. The Sable Barrow remains a holy location to the city's Abadarian faithful to this day. High Priestess Brissa Cligvauther holds service at the Cathedral of the Lawgiver and leads the city's most prominent faith. Another important figure in the city is Vel Bindercorp, the owner of Bindercorp's fine salves and tonics, who fully embraces his eccentric gnome persona. However, unbeknownst to most, he has for a long time served as an agent of the Twilight Talon, a clandestine branch of Andorran's Eagle Knights that in Chesed dedicated itself to opposing the growing influence of the Technic League. What Vel's current agenda is, given the dissolution of the League, remains to be seen. In any case, another, perhaps greater threat looms over Chesed these days, emanating from the depths beneath its sewers. The Chiton cultists of the Chapel of Rent Flesh maintain a presence in the city, and dispatch agents to the surface to secure specimens for their cruel experiments. Scrapwall. This wasteland scrapyard sprawls across the landscape, a vast expanse of discarded technology, useless debris, and scattered remnants, extending for nearly 3 miles. Once a thriving source of sky metal, rivaling even the Silver Mount itself, this site has long been depleted of its most valuable resources. Within this labyrinthine maze of twisted metal, passages and open-air thoroughfares wind their way around artificial mountains of mangled scraps. While not a formal settlement, Scrapwall is far from deserted. The tangled expanse is infested with numerous gangs of bandits and thugs, engaged in constant bickering and squabbles. Chitterhome. About 50 miles east of Scrapwall lies an enclave of Isoki, the largest and most prominent community of its kind in Numeria, possibly in the entire Inner Sea region, in fact. Known as Chitterhome, this Isoki settlement is situated within a series of natural caverns that have been expanded and modified by the industrious Isoki themselves. Notably, Chitterhome holds 3 previously undiscovered entrances that lead to the upper reaches of Narvoth. These passages are closely guarded by the Isoki, who fear the unknown dangers lurking below. Each entrance is sealed with large stone plugs, operated by motors salvaged from the technological ruins. At the helm of Chitterhome is Elder Broketooth, a wise and experienced leader who once traveled eastern Avestan as an adventurer in her youth, but returned to her home warren when her knees began to fail. Elder Broketooth has implemented strategic measures to safeguard Chitterhome, which have proven successful so far. The sprawling caverns cover a square mile in total area, and every major section of the warren is meticulously designed with multiple entrances, exits, and collapsible tunnels, ensuring that the entire town cannot easily fall to an invasion from both above or below. Though beautiful in its own way, the passages within Chitterhome are tailored to accommodate Isoki, making them uncomfortable and claustrophobic for larger races. The Isoki residents exhibit remarkable resourcefulness, adept at repurposing scavenged inventions for both defensive purposes and trade with outsiders. While Chitterhome does not readily welcome visitors, the Isoki take their trade goods on the road, venturing to meet merchants along the Sellen River or traveling to cities such as Chesed and Hajoth Hakados. Sunderhorn. Home of the eponymous Sunderhorn clan, the Sunderhorns are suppliers of various types of mined ore to other larger settlements in Numeria. Not every community is willing to trade with the Sunderhorn clan, however, as they make extensive use of thralls, another fancy word for a slave, in their mining operations near their clan hold. Their leader, Clan Liege Givholt, is particularly known for raiding the lowlands around the Golishkin Mountains in the east, not recognizing the Brevik border, and being a constant thorn in the side of House Garrus, whose lands he frequently raids. Crow Hollow. The site of this deep pit, which served as the former wintering grounds of the Mountain Crow clan that mysteriously disappeared over 80 years ago, is believed to be haunted. According to the accounts of their successor tribe, the extinction of the mountain crows can be attributed to the sinkhole that manifested following a period of unusual rainfall. The last party of adventurers from distant lands who ventured into this location met a similar fate, vanishing without a trace and leaving no information about their fate. Although in truth originally just the site of a simple natural disaster and not actually haunted at all, reality came to be a cruel mirror of rumor when a Technic League wizard named Alling Tresserant investigated the site some 60 years ago. Alling became addicted to the strange chemicals inside the ruins and engaged in communication with the voices that whispered from the wreckage. Alling realized it was impossible to unlock all the secrets of the ruin in just one lifetime. Obsessed, he set out to achieve lichdom, guided by an intelligence within the ruin. Alling himself has become an inhuman horror, even for a lich. His only biological remains, his head and torso, are suspended in a glass cylinder. This receptacle is mounted on a mechanical arachnid-like chassis and attached by all manner of tubes and cables, while a wheezing bellows drives air through a mechanical larynx. The entire contraption crawls with a spidery grace, although a handful of components pop and hiss amid small showers of sparks as it moves. Sulphur Gulch. One of the larger intact ship components to crash into the Sellen Hills was the Aerotech synthesis compound, which crashed some 200 miles east of the Silver Mount. Originally, this module manufactured and stored toxic gases that were integral to other ship functions. However, the rough landing caused many of the gases to leak slowly into the surrounding environment, prompting locals to give the site a new name, Sulphur Gulch. Because of the toxic gases, exploring this area is very dangerous, and is best done with some kind of rebreathing apparatus for safety. Sulphur Gulch was the location of the Pathfinder Society adventure, The Wardens of Sulphur Gulch. The Fallheart Death Field. As described in my history section, the Fallheart Death Field is a highly irradiated patch of land where 2 full armies died during a sudden cataclysmic burst of radiation. Although the area is generally avoided, Fallheart's outward dangers belie the potential for exploration beneath it. An enterprising group of explorers could hypothetically find a way to dig down through the shell of hardened earth. After a distance of only 20 feet or so, the explorers would find the ruins of an experimental reactor. The exact nature of this reactor and what else might be found there remains unknown, however. Moormouth. The small hamlet of Moormouth, located at the border with Pitax, is a reluctant part of both the River Kingdoms and the nation of Pitax. Tradition ties Moormouth to Pitax, but common sense and a desire for gold and other finer things in life edge it ever closer to Numeria, its stronger neighbor. During the Pitaxian Civil War, described in more detail in my River Kingdoms Deepdive video, Moormouth and the rest of the north separated from Pitax and formed the independent nation of Corven. After being conquered and reintegrated, many in Moormouth still hold resentment towards the Pitaxians, but rather than risk independence, they may well defect to Numeria instead, giving them a greater likelihood of retaining their independence.